To understand Viktor Frankl, we must first travel back in time to Vienna in the early decades of the 20th century. This was not just any city, it was the cradle of modern psychology. The air was thick with intellectual fervor, a place where ideas about the human mind were debated with the same passion as politics and art. It was here, in this fertile ground, that a young and brilliant mind was beginning to blossom. Born in 1905, Viktor Frankl was a prodigy of thought. Even as a teenager, he was already corresponding with Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis. But Frankl wasn't content to simply follow in the footsteps of the giants who came before him. While Freud focused on the will to pleasure and Alfred Adler on the will to power, Frankl was convinced there was something more fundamental at the core of human motivation. He believed in what he would later call the will to meaning. Imagine a young Frankl walking the grand boulevards of Vienna, his mind buzzing with ideas. He was a student of neurology and psychiatry, but his true passion lay in understanding the human spirit. He saw patients who were suffering not just from mental illness, but from a profound emptiness, a sense that their lives lacked purpose. He began to develop his own unique school of thought, which he would later name Logotherapy, from the Greek word logos, meaning meaning. His work was revolutionary, but the world around him was beginning to unravel. The vibrant intellectual Vienna was slowly being choked by the rising tide of Nazism. Frankl, who was Jewish, found his life and his work under immediate threat. His optimism, his belief in meaning was about to be tested in the most brutal and unimaginable way. The city he loved, the city that had shaped his mind, was about to become a place of terror. We see him in these final moments of normalcy, a man of intellect and hope, unaware of the abyss he was about to face, but already armed with the philosophical tools that would one day save him. He had no idea that his theories would soon be his only defense, his only weapon against a world intent on stripping him of everything. The year is 1942. The vibrant intellectual life of Vienna is a distant memory. For Viktor Frankl, the world has shrunk to the confines of a cattle car, its windows boarded up, its air thick with the stench of fear and despair. He, his wife, his parents, all of them were being transported to the Theresienstadt ghetto. This was the beginning of his harrowing journey through 4 different concentration camps, an odyssey that would test every fiber of his being. Imagine the sheer physical and psychological shock of arrival. The dehumanization was immediate and brutal. Stripped of his clothes, his possessions, his identity, all that remained was a uniform, a number, and the constant gnawing hunger. The grand ideas he had cultivated in Vienna were now worthless in a place where survival depended on a crust of bread and a moment of luck. But here, in this abyss, Frankl's philosophy began its most profound and terrifying test. He observed his fellow prisoners, and he observed himself. He saw some men who, when faced with starvation, would steal a piece of bread from another. But he also saw men who would give away their last piece of bread, a final defiant act of humanity. He saw that the prisoners who had a why to live, a spouse to see again, a book to finish, a child to protect, were the ones who were most likely to survive. They had a future to hold on to, a purpose that transcended their present suffering. Frankl himself clung to his own why. He imagined himself lecturing to his students in a warm, comfortable room, teaching them about the psychology of the concentration camp. This mental exercise wasn't an escape from reality. It was an act of rebellion against it. It gave him a reason to endure the freezing nights, the back-breaking labor, and the constant threat of death. He was not just a prisoner. He was a silent observer, a scientist of the human spirit, gathering data for a book he wasn't sure he would ever get to write. His experience proved his theories were more than just intellectual constructs. They were a survival tool. In a world designed to strip away every last vestige of human dignity, Frankl discovered that the last of the human freedoms, the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, could never be taken away. This was the insight that would form the bedrock of his most important work. In the desolate, unforgiving landscape of the concentration camp, where human connection was systematically destroyed, Viktor Frankl's theories were not just surviving, they were being forged into something stronger, something more profound. He saw that the prisoners who lost hope, who saw no future and no purpose, were the first to succumb. But those who had a reason to live, a loved one to be reunited with, a work to complete, a sense of responsibility, were the ones who found the inner strength to endure. Frankl called this the will to meaning, and it was in this crucible of suffering that his philosophy of logotherapy was truly born. Logotherapy is not about escaping pain. It is about finding meaning in it. Frankl observed that suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning, such as the meaning of a sacrifice. For him, the question was not, why me? But what is the meaning of my suffering? He saw that even in the most horrific circumstances, a person could choose their response. They could choose to be a victim of their circumstances, or they could choose to find a purpose in their struggle. This was a radical idea, a direct challenge to the prevailing psychological thought of the time. While others focused on what was wrong with the human mind, Frankl focused on what was right, the inherent human capacity to find meaning. He saw that even in the face of death, a person could find a reason to live. He saw it in the man who shared his last piece of bread, in the man who comforted a dying friend, in the man who found solace in the beauty of a sunset. These were not acts of weakness, they were acts of profound strength, a testament to the human spirit's ability to transcend its physical limitations. Frankl's experience was a living laboratory for his theories. He wasn't just a doctor, he was a patient, a survivor, a witness. He saw firsthand that the human spirit is not a fragile thing that shatters under pressure. It is a resilient force that, when fueled by a sense of purpose, can withstand the most unimaginable horrors. His work was a testament to this, a beacon of hope in a world that had lost its way. With the war over and the concentration camps liberated, Viktor Frankl was a free man. But the world he returned to was not the one he had left. His wife, his parents, and his brother had all perished. He was a survivor, but his survival came at an unimaginable cost. The suffering he had endured, however, was not in vain. It had given him an unparalleled insight into the human condition, and he dedicated the rest of his life to sharing it with the world. Frankl returned to Vienna, where he became a professor and a practicing psychiatrist. He published his seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning, in which he chronicled his experiences in the camps and laid out the principles of logotherapy. He argued that the primary motivational force in humans is the search for meaning, and that this search could be found in three main ways: by creating a work or doing a deed, by experiencing something or encountering someone, and by the attitude we take towards unavoidable suffering. The book became a global phenomenon, resonating with millions who felt a sense of emptiness and purposelessness in the modern world. Frankl's message was a powerful antidote to a society that he felt was increasingly focused on pleasure and material possessions. He taught that even in a world of abundance, one could feel a profound sense of meaninglessness, and that the only way to combat this was to actively seek and create purpose. He saw the post-war world as a place ripe for his philosophy, The trauma of the war had left a deep scar on the collective psyche, and people were searching for answers. Frankl's work offered a path forward, a way to heal not just the physical wounds of the war, but the spiritual ones as well. He lectured all over the world, inspiring generations of students, psychologists, and everyday people to find their own why. His teachings on responsibility, resilience, and the power of choice became a cornerstone of modern humanistic psychology. Today, Frankl's legacy lives on. His words, forged in the fires of Auschwitz, continue to offer a profound and timeless message. They remind us that the human spirit is capable of extraordinary resilience, and that no matter how difficult our circumstances, we always retain the ultimate freedom to choose our attitude and find a purpose in our lives. Viktor Frankl's story is a historical account of survival, but his philosophy is a timeless blueprint for living. We often think of suffering in dramatic, life or death terms like those Frankl endured, but the modern world presents us with its own unique forms of suffering, not of the body, but of the soul. A profound sense of emptiness, the feeling of being lost in a world of endless choices, the quiet desperation that comes from a lack of purpose. This is the existential vacuum Frankl spoke of, and it is more prevalent now than ever. Frankl taught us that meaning can be found not just in grand gestures, but in the small, everyday choices we make. In a world saturated with information and distraction, finding meaning often means deliberately choosing to focus on what truly matters. It means asking yourself, not what do I want from life, but what does life want from me? This simple shift in perspective moves us from a passive consumer to an active participant, a person with a purpose and a responsibility. Consider the modern professional, consumed by a demanding career. Frankl would suggest that meaning isn't found in a promotion or a higher salary, but in the purpose behind the work, in creating something of value, in helping others, in using one's talents to make a positive impact. Or think of a person facing a personal tragedy, a loss or an illness. While we can't change the circumstances, we can, as Frankl did, choose our attitude towards them. We can find meaning in the strength we must summon, the lessons we learn, and the compassion we offer to others who are also struggling. Logotherapy isn't a quick fix or a self-help gimmick. It's a deep, introspective challenge. It forces us to confront our own freedom and responsibility. In an age where we are often told to follow our passion, Frankl's message is a sobering and powerful counterpoint. Our passion should follow our purpose. Our meaning is not something we invent out of thin air, but something we discover through our actions, our relationships, and our courage in the face of adversity. It's in these moments of quiet reflection and deliberate choice that Frankl's insights, forged in the darkest of times, become a powerful guide for navigating the complexities of modern life. They show us that meaning isn't a prize to be won, but a path to be walked.
In the vast, bleak landscape of the concentration camp, where human connection was systematically destroyed, Viktor Frankl found one of his most powerful sources of meaning, the memory of his wife. He wrote of how he would find himself in a work detail, surrounded by the physical and mental anguish of his fellow prisoners, and yet his mind would be elsewhere. He would imagine his wife, see her face, and hear her voice. This wasn't a delusion. It was an act of profound spiritual communion. He realized in that moment that even if she were gone, his love for her remained. This experience led Frankl to a radical conclusion. Love is not just a feeling, but a profound and transformative act. It is the highest and most sacred form of meaning. He taught that by focusing on the love we have for another, we can find a purpose that transcends our own suffering. When we are loved, we are given a reason to live. When we love, we are given a reason to endure. This is a powerful lesson for a world that often struggles with loneliness and fractured relationships. Frankl's philosophy encourages us to look beyond ourselves and find meaning in our connections with others. It's a reminder that our greatest acts of courage and resilience are often done not for ourselves, but for those we care about. In a world that often promotes individualism, Frankl's work offers a powerful counter-narrative, showing us that our purpose is often found in our shared humanity. Think of the parent who works tirelessly to provide for their child, or the friend who stands by another through a difficult time. These are not just acts of duty, they are acts of love, and in them we find a profound sense of meaning. For Frankl, love was not just a means of survival, but a testament to the fact that even in the face of absolute despair, the human spirit can find a reason to live, to hope, and to connect. He understood that suffering, when shared with another, becomes more bearable. When our purpose is to care for another, we are no longer alone in our struggle. We have a shared mission, a shared why, and in that shared purpose, we find strength. The concentration camps were, above all, a place of death. For Viktor Frankl, this proximity to mortality was not just a source of terror, it was also a profound teacher. He came to see that the finitude of life is not a tragedy to be avoided, but the very thing that gives our lives meaning. Our limited time on this earth, the fact that we will not live forever, is what makes every moment, every choice, and every action so incredibly significant. He taught that the most valuable thing we have is not what we possess, but what we have done and what we have become. Our life, with all its joys and sorrows, is like a book that has been written. And once it is written, it can never be changed. This isn't a source of fear, but of profound comfort. For him, what a person had accomplished, the love they had shared, the suffering they had endured with courage, all of this was saved, stored away in the past, safe from the impermanence of the present. This perspective offers a powerful way to approach the ultimate suffering, the end of life. When faced with our own mortality, or the mortality of a loved one, we are often consumed by grief and a sense of finality. Frankl's philosophy, however, suggests that we can find meaning even in our final moments. We can find purpose in the legacy we leave behind, the lessons we impart, and the love we continue to share. He would often ask his patients to imagine themselves on their deathbed, reflecting on their lives. This exercise was not meant to be morbid, but to be clarifying. It forced them to confront what truly mattered, to see what they would wish they had done differently, and to make those changes now, while they still had time. It was a way of living each day with the end in mind, not out of fear, but out of a profound appreciation for the preciousness of life. In this way, Frankl's insights about death are not about giving up, but about living more fully. They challenge us to see our lives not as a race to be won, but as a masterpiece to be created, and to find meaning in every stroke of the brush, even the ones that are born from pain. We have journeyed with Viktor Frankl from the intellectual salons of Vienna to the gates of Auschwitz, and from the depths of despair to a life dedicated to healing. His story is a powerful testament to the resilience of the human spirit. But what is the ultimate lesson his life offers us? It is a lesson so simple, yet so profound, that it has the power to change everything. The single most important lesson from Frankl's philosophy is that even when we are stripped of everything, our health, our possessions, our loved ones, we retain one final, undeniable freedom: the freedom to choose our attitude in any given set of circumstances. This is the last human freedom. It is the ability to rise above our conditions, to find a sense of purpose and meaning that no one can take away. It is not a matter of positive thinking, but of courageous living. So how do we integrate this insight into our own lives? It begins with a simple act of introspection. It begins by asking ourselves, not what do I want from life, but what does life want from me? It means consciously choosing to find purpose in our work, in our relationships, and in our inevitable suffering. It means understanding that our challenges are not meaningless obstacles, but opportunities for growth, resilience, and a deeper understanding of ourselves. Frankl did not just survive the Holocaust, he transcended it. He took the most horrific experience imaginable and used it as a forge to create a philosophy that has offered hope to millions. His life's work is a powerful reminder that our search for meaning is not a luxury. It is the fundamental driving force of our existence. It is what separates mere survival from a life of purpose. In a world that is often chaotic and uncertain, Frankl's voice echoes from the past with a message of enduring relevance. He reminds us that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we can always control our response, and in that choice lies the ultimate freedom.
Viktor Frankl's story is a powerful testament to human resilience. His journey, from the vibrant streets of Vienna to the unimaginable horrors of the concentration camps, offers us a timeless lesson. The last human freedom is the ability to choose our attitude in any given circumstance. Frankl taught us that even in the darkest of moments, we can find meaning in our suffering and purpose in our actions. His philosophy, Logotherapy, is not just a guide to survival, but a roadmap for a life with purpose, reminding us that our search for meaning is the driving force of our existence. If Viktor Frankl's journey and philosophy have resonated with you, please like this video so that his story and lessons can reach more people. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message of hope and resilience. And to not miss our next videos, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to be notified whenever new content is released.